Today, the Insider exclusive investigative news team goes behind the headlines in Truth and Justice for Joe Max Gutierrez to examine how Derek Garcia of the law firm of Derek Garcia is seeking justice and the truth for the Gutierrez family regarding the death of Joe Max Gutierrez. 230 miles south of Albuquerque, New Mexico is the small town of Bayard, New Mexico, located in the foothills of the mountains in the southwestern portion of the state of New Mexico. It's situated east of the Continental Divide at an elevation of approximately 5,800 feet. Approximately 2,500 people reside here today, but historically, Bayard was known as Fort Bayard and was the site of an 1866 post of the U.S. Army Buffalo Soldiers. Fort Bayard was established to protect miners and other settlers in the area along the Apache Trail. Later, Fort Bayard became an Army tuberculosis hospital and research center, and it's now administered as the New Mexico Department of Health. It was designated as a National Historic Landmark in 2004. On June 19, 2010, around 9 p.m., Joe Max Gutierrez was found dead in his home at 704 Lusk Avenue, Bayard, New Mexico, from a single shotgun blast to the head. The shotgun discharged after an alleged domestic dispute with his wife, Jamie Gutierrez Fetty. Chief Medical Investigator Dr. Ross Zumwalt of the Office of Medical Investigator ruled the manner of death to be a suicide. But Derek Garcia and his investigators have turned up numerous problems with Dr. Zumwalt's ruling, indicating an undetermined or homicide theory as the more compelling explanation. Derek Garcia's several requests to the local district attorney and the Office of Medical Investigators to revise the suicide ruling to undetermined have not been successful. Nearly 4 years after the death of Joe Max Gutierrez, the family still searches for answers to the following questions. Why did Jamie Fetty, Joe's widow, describe multiple versions of the death, including the gun going off during a struggle? Why was there apparent physical tampering of the body by police officers? Why weren't indications of evidence tampering investigated at the scene? Why did the police officers at the scene clean up after their investigation, rather than someone outside the control and influence of the investigating officer, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez? Why weren't all the critical witnesses interviewed? Why wasn't the Office of Medical Investigators informed that the lead investigator in the case, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, was engaged in a love affair with Jamie Fetty? In 2011 and 2012, Derek Garcia spent countless hours meeting with OMI and petitioning the local district attorney and AG's office to reopen an investigation, all without success. Derek and his clients are potentially going to pursue an access to courts theory. This right is based on the First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Because of the botched and tainted investigations surrounding this incident, the family has been denied justice and access to the courts in ever receiving hard, concrete answers to their questions and concerns about the integrity of the investigation. To succeed in getting justice and the truth for the Gutierrez family, Derek Garcia needs to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that their allegations are true. This would be easier to do in a right of access to the court's lawsuit, as opposed to claiming additional allegations concerning wrongful death, conspiracy to deny civil rights, or intentional homicide. Without additional investigation and documentary investigation, the light of day might never be achieved in this case. Other jurisdictions outside New Mexico have adopted strict procedures for domestic violence investigations involving police officers and their resulting control of the investigations. Gutierrez family wants similar reforms adopted here, although nothing has been achieved yet because no case has been filed. In this special Insider exclusive Investigative Network TV show, we meet with Michael Gutierrez, Joe's brother, and Michael Corwin, the local New Mexico Field Investigator with Corwin Research and Investigations, who will comment extensively on the field research done on this case, including interviews of witnesses and an analysis of evidence thus far conducted. Derek has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Albuquerque, in New Mexico, and across the nation. Derek has built a substantial reputation nationwide by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down, and his amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide his clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is my great pleasure to introduce Derek Garcia to the show. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law practice.
I'm mainly devoted to plaintiff civil rights law, that is, forcing the Constitution of the United States, primarily under the Fourth Amendment, which protects citizens against unlawful searches and seizures, but also all kinds of civil rights litigation. I also do some criminal defense, a little bit of family law and entertainment law, mainly in books and music.
Today we're going to be talking about a case dealing with Joe Gutierrez. Tell our audience a little bit about this case and what's so significant about it.
My client is the brother of the deceased, Mr. Joe Max Gutierrez. My client came to me in June of 2010. And after this incident occurred, it was actually more like 2011 by the time he got around to consulting a lawyer. This is a very serious case, and one that we've been struggling with for a number of years. We've invested an enormous amount of resources, time, effort in trying to get some answers and trying to determine what happened in this case. Joe Max Gutierrez was in an alleged fight with his wife at the time, Jamie Fetty Gutierrez, and was found dead that morning in June. There are a number of problems with the investigation. There are a number of problems with the crime scene being preserved to national standards. There was also a big problem with conflicts of interest in the investigation, the criminal investigation into how he wound up dead. The investigation that we've conducted has shown that the lead officer, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, was having an affair with the deceased wife at the time, and was completely in charge of the crime scene and sort of the aftermath of the crime scene.
I also understand that he might have been at the location at the time of the incident, right?
That is correct.
So was he in the house?
He was in the front porch area of the house. When the shots were fired, when it went off.
Tell us some of the problems that, the case was originally and still is classified as a suicide, correct?
That's correct.
And what are the problems that you have with that?
The problem with this case is that the officer on the scene, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, completely controlled all the information that was being released, completely controlled the crime scene in the very initial stages of the investigation. OMI, the Office of the Medical Investigator, ruled that it was a suicide. Joe Max, died because of suicide, a manner to death. Because
OMI is the Office of
Medical Investigator here, and it's a state agency that determines the manner and method of death in almost every single person that passes away. So they immediately took the lead from the police investigating on the scene. They didn't, sort of conduct an independent investigation, we feel, adequately in this case. And so we've spent a lot of time attempting to convince the Office of the Medical Investigator to reopen, or at least to relook at its findings and to determine, that either the actual cause of death was undetermined or was a homicide, potentially, instead of a suicide.
And to date, they have not done anything, have they? They haven't changed their opinion, have they?
They have declined to revise their ruling based on the information that they got from the police department investigating.
So what type of steps are you taking legally to try to get this thing reopened so it can be reevaluated?
Legally, it's in the very initial stages of investigation. Our main theory of the case at this point is that my client, the brother of the deceased, my client Michael Gutierrez, and his family have been denied access to the courts in the sense that because of the botched investigation in this, because of all the unanswered questions, they have not been able to achieve an adequate resolution, and there was no police investigation up to, adequate standards.
You have hired an expert in this case, Michael Corwin.
That's correct.
Who we're going to have on the show a little later. But my question to you is, what has your investigation revealed so far, and what is your theory of this case?
Our investigation has indicated, as I mentioned earlier, a number of problems at the crime scene. The deceased, in one set of photos taken, had a cloth in his hand. In a second set of photos, after some period of time passed, that cloth is nowhere to be found. And there were many indications that the body had been moved, that it had been basically tampered with in the intervening period between the two sets of photographs. Mm-hmm. This is almost unheard of for any homicide investigation. It is not up to national standards in how you investigate a crime scene. There are a number of other problems. We found some social media posts made by the wife of the deceased. She's the only eyewitness to it. Jamie Gutierrez is the only eyewitness in this case. And afterwards, her Facebook profile said 187 on you, which is the police code for murder.
Right.
And some other things that we have preserved up until this point. We also have a number of Google searches on the cell phone that was retrieved by the family, including phrases like how to make a homicide look like a suicide. Mm-hmm. And some other electronic evidence that we're attempting to preserve. So it's a very, very, very tricky sort of situation in terms of being able to meet our burdens of proof in moving forward.
Right, and you've presented this to the authorities, and they haven't budged one bit, have they?
That's correct. We've had extensive meetings with the Office of the Medical Investigator. Mm-hmm. We've also approached the Attorney General.
Any result from the Attorney General yet?
We have not had a definitive ruling or a definitive yes or no either way,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not they're going to conduct additional investigation. Yes. So it's really, it's quite frustrating for this much time to be passing. But on a case like this, it's very, very important to be detail-oriented and make sure that no false accusations are made.
Right. Today we also have with us your client, Michael Gutierrez. So let's bring him on right now. I want to thank you for being on the show, Mike. Take our audience, back to this whole event. It's been 4 years since your brother passed away, and our condolences, by the way. What have you discovered in the interim period of time that leads you to believe that the official report is not accurate? And what would you like to see done about it?
Well, personally, I'd like to set aside the fact that regarding my brother's case, I just want there to be justice, not just for him, but for anybody else who's had to deal with these kind of situations. It has been 4 years, but it seems like it's flown by. Every day I relive it. I remember the day I was sitting outside my grandparents' house. My brother lived maybe half a mile away. Mm-hmm. So in the area there of Baird, everything, you can hear somebody yell from across town, no problem. And I remember about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I heard like a firecracker, and I looked over to my dad and I said, wow, they're already selling fireworks. And he said, no, that was a gunshot. And I said, no, you gotta, He goes, no, that was a gunshot, and it echoed off the mountains. So there was something that told me, you know what, you should go see if your brother's back from the fire. There was a fire taking place in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And he was a firefighter?
He was a firefighter, yes. Yeah. He had been a firefighter since 1996. Well, I had my son with me, and that kept me from going down there. I figured my brother, we were really close. It was a cup of coffee and a cigarette every morning before we split ways. He went his way on his fire. I went my way on my fire. So I waited it out. 8 o'clock came around and I said, you know what, I'm going to get my son home and put him in the truck. Well, needless to say, I get a call about half an hour later from my cousin. And he tells me, hey, you got to get to your brother's house. I was like, all right, I'll be there. And he goes, no, you got to get to your brother's house now. Well, it had been an ongoing event where his wife had been stating that there was a bunch of domestic violence taking place. There's conflicting stories there from her best friend saying that all of those stories of domestic violences were just a setup.
You had a cup of coffee and a cigarette with your brother every morning.
Every morning.
Was he the kind of guy that would beat his wife or hit a woman?
No, I got photos of him holding wild birds in his hand. He would stop, if you had a flat tire, he would stop and change the tire for you and tell you, no, I'll take care of it.
So you went over to his house?
When I got there, there was a big scene. Everybody was there before I was. I got there, sure enough, Lieutenant Rodriguez was there. To me, I felt that was wrong. I'm not educated in law, but I knew that he had been having an affair with my brother's wife because my brother retrieved text messages, these text messages back and forth. And it could have been any Sam, but he sent him a text message with a picture of himself to her. So, you know, this is the only man that's named Sam. These are the same numbers going back and forth.
Right.
If you love me, you'll do anything for me.
Yeah.
These kind of text messages.
So he's also the supervising investigating officer.
Exactly.
Right. And he should not have been that, should he? I
It's,
mean, is that the police standard, that if you have a personal relationship with someone, you shouldn't be on the scene like that?
There are a number of jurisdictions that have enacted very strict procedures about investigating domestic violence situations if you're involved as the officer as well. New Mexico, unfortunately, is not one of them yet.
Yeah. You soon discovered that supposedly your brother had passed on.
Yes.
You soon discovered that there was a talk or an official version that said it was a suicide. Is your brother the kind of person that would have committed suicide?
You know, in my heart and everything that I know about him, he wouldn't even come and spend a weekend with me in Las Cruces, which is only an hour-and-a-half drive, to hang out with me, to hang out with his brother, because he didn't want to leave his kids for more than a day.
Yeah.
So that tells me...
So the kids were everything to him?
Yeah, the kids were everything to him, yeah. Definitely. He never spanked them.
Yeah.
He was just a great father.
In your heart of hearts, what do you think happened?
There's some foul play. There's some foul play. There was a lot of things. Like I said, I'm not educated in law, but there were, like Derek discussed, the crime scene photos where the body was moved. There's the equal and opposite reaction. You get a shotgun up to your head, the shotgun's going to go one way and the body should go the other, but his feet were on top of the shotgun and he was laying, 3 feet to his right. I had spoke to the funeral director. The funeral director was told to discard of the sheets. He put them in the incinerator. He burned the sheets. There was evidence on those sheets.
Told by who? Rodriguez?
By the investigator, yes. I don't know if it was him or Callie. Yeah. There was somebody in that mix of people that was designated to tell the funeral home to discard of any of the evidence. And these were clothes, these were sheets, bedding, a number of things.
Okay, we're on national TV now. Yes. What do you want to tell the national audience about what you want to see happen for your brother in this case?
I just want people to not stop trying. Don't give up. If there is a slight possibility, a glimpse that you could be right, don't let it go. Stick with it. Hold on to that thread. Let your gut feeling trust your gut. Your gut, it's never going to lie to you. Your heart will lie to you, your brain will lie to you, but your gut feeling, it's an instinct. It's a born instinct, and if you trust it, it's there. It's the truth. It's what it is. So don't give up. Don't stop.
I want to thank you very much for spending time with us. We certainly hope that justice is done here, that it is openly investigated and the truth comes out. Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
We also have with us your chief field investigator, correct?
Correct.
Michael Corwin?
Mr. Corwin, yes.
So let's bring him on right now. You know, Michael, you've been an investigator for 25 years. So I want you to give our audience, and we're not in a courtroom, you're not testifying, but based on your 25 years of experience, what do you think happened?
Okay. Based upon my experience and a couple of factors that we came across during our investigation, I don't think that Joe died from suicide. I think he died because somebody else shot him. Now,
someone else shot him?
Yes.
Or the gun went off accidentally?
No, actually Dr. Zumwalt at OMI said it could not be an accidental shooting. That was his assessment. It could either be suicide or homicide, but it could not have been an accidental shooting.
So this is a homicide, in your opinion?
If it's not a suicide, yes. And I think that was one of the difficulties here. But my opinion is this, is based upon what I believe is an admission against penal interest, or in essence a form of a confession. Joe's wife wrote on her Facebook page several references to 187. And I used to be an investigator in California, and 187 is the penal code for murder.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, we have 4 different versions of what happened, and while they all involve either a struggle with the gun or Joe holding the gun and something happening, and one of the 4 being a suicide, why are there 4 different versions for this?
Mm-hmm. And by the way, those 4 different versions were given to police 4 different times?
Yes,
okay.
To 4 different officers,
okay,
but by Joe's wife, each one,
okay,
on that. So based on that, based upon the 187, based upon, I think that the blood splatter on the wall, which shows an absence of blood if somebody were back against the wall at the time of the shooting, my theory, based upon what I understand of his mental state at that time by talking to other people, is that she actually held the shotgun up this manner and went boom, which would be consistent with the shot going right here, and the blowback, you know, the impact of the gun kicking backwards would be what hit her in the face, and it would also account for the rotation in Joe's body as he went to the floor, because his head would have turned, and where the head goes, the body goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my opinion.
Well, Derek, you've got a lot of ammunition here to open this case. And are you done with your investigation?
Yeah, I've not done any further investigation in a while.
And let's certainly hope that somebody pays attention to this.
We have sent the results of Mr. Corwin's investigation also to the local district attorney, who has specifically written me back to say that they will not be reopening their investigation. We don't know what more we can do in terms of getting the state of New Mexico.
What about the AG? AG hasn't...
The Attorney General's office has also been approached.
Yeah, but they haven't given any resolution.
Not specifically, but we will still continue to explore channels there as long as it takes.
Yeah, well, this is a great miscarriage of justice that we certainly would like to see rectified. And I want to thank you for spending your time on the show here with us. Tell our audience a little bit about how you select your clients as well as your cases.
We try to select clients who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford an attorney, otherwise wouldn't be able to achieve justice on their civil rights claims because of whatever sort of disability they might have, whatever sort of economic disadvantage they might have. We do the best we can to provide equal justice, or at least an equal opportunity for justice for everybody.
Well, without dedicated lawyers like yourself, there'd be a lot of people who wouldn't have representation. And I want to thank you for taking your valuable time to being on this show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at InsiderExclusive.com.